Hi, and welcome to Conversion Conversations. This is Cameron, and today I'm taking a look at Transformers Generations Studio Series 86, number 21. We have Commander Class Ultra Magnus, and starting off the bat, I'll say that this is the toy this year that I think I've gone back and forth the most on. A big reason for the delay in this review was some stress marks and some issues, some quality control issues. But I do like this guy. We have a big Commander class car carrier. It rolls pretty dang well. I think I have a wheel that needs to, there we go. Rolls pretty well. He's got a nice big backdrop here. And yeah, in car carrier mode, he can do a couple things. We do have just the cab, the white Optimus cab. And this does not transform into a robot by itself. But I think as a cab, it looks pretty good. Although I think I would have liked maybe some extra panel folding to close up this gap and then close up this gap. I am curious to see if we are going to get a third-party company that will give us a cab that does transform into a robot. I think I've realized in owning this toy that that is an important part of the play pattern to me. We do have a spot where we can connect things. We can either rest things on top and it works and rotates, or you can click things down to make sure things stay attached. Either way, it works. Then we have the car carrier, and it does look very nice. We have some really nice greeble detail. I like these like pneumatic pumps back here. The panel lining looks really good. The Autobot logo. Not a ton of obvious paint in this mode, but we have subtle little touches like these vents, the white up here. We might be able to see, yeah, so this is the stress marks that I was talking about. I think these, the length of this piece compared to the space between these two pieces is, there's too much stress there when you're rotating it, which is unfortunate. I was looking at a couple repairs to prevent the stress marks from getting worse. I wasn't able to find, I think, a permanent solution. I also point out that this tab is too wide for this slot, and you can see as a result the stress marks there, that kind of whitening on both sides here. But the cab, the car carrier is pretty neat, and again, very G1 Classics Magnus. We can fold down a ramp here, and we can feed him some cars. So let's put a prowl up. You know what? Let's get rid of there we go. So I think he can sit a total of like 3-ish cars. I'm just going to stick a random set of 3 there. So that's pretty cool. I mean, that, like, for play pattern, it is nice to get an Ultra Magnus that actually is a car carrier. For comparison, my current Magnus is the Siege Magnus, and I really like this design also. I really, really like the Robots in Disguise alt mode. But this Magnus cannot actually carry any cars except for if you put one on top. So it is neat to see the Commander class, and you can also see the size difference. While I'll say this is small for a Commander, it is definitely bigger than a modern leader that this Ultra Magnus is here. And they are going for 2 very different aesthetics. But I like both of them in their own way. I think this Siege Magnus definitely has a place in a collection because it's mimicking something different. But this overwrites the Kingdom Magnus. Like that I don't see any value in having that one anymore just right off the bat. And yeah, in terms of play pattern here, that's kind of all you get in the alt mode, but I think that's all you really want him to do, right? You want him to be big, to be able to carry cars. He's got spots for things like his missiles can spin because they're on pegs. These guns here, the guns look nice. We can take those off. Yeah, and just, a nice, relatively clean car carrier that has a ramp that you can load up with your cars. Again, against the backdrop, looks really good. He does come with some of the blast effects like all the commanders before him have. So if you want, you can on his smokestacks. He can have, fire shooting out of the smokestacks like so. Put that back on. His gun pieces, there's transparent plastic painted in this nice like purplish metallic silver. I think it looks really good. But because that's transparent unpainted plastic, I think it means that it won't react negatively with the soft plastic of his blast effects. So, you know, if you want his guns firing off, you can also do that. And yeah, it's, you know, as an Ultra Magnus alt mode, I think Studio Series has knocked it out of the park in terms of appearance and functionality. It does the things that you want G1 Magnus to do. Now, in terms of transformation, he is a pretty simple transformation. We are going to start things off by taking off these missiles. Not the missiles, the missile launcher. There we go. 1 and 2. I like to secure the cab. You can transform things separately if you want, but I like to just stick it on. And it does have some different settings. There's 3 settings that you can kind of squeeze the cab down, and I leave it up top until later. We can come in on the back end, and we're going to separate out. There's a tab and a slot on either side here, and these arms are tabbed together up here. We can untab on both ends, and then we are going to flip things out after we separate out this panel on either side. Bring it down, flip it down, same thing here. And then we can bring these arms out and around, and we can see kind of where the Ultra Magnus body is gonna be. Next, I like to do the legs first. We're going to bring these red panels down, and you can see they there's a slot and a tab that you want to engage right there. Same thing on this side. Bring it all the way down. With that, or the cab will fall off. With that, we can bring this tab in. We're going to rotate it back and down. Same thing here, back and down. That lets us bring the legs up. And the legs are almost done. The very last thing you want to do is take the wheels. They kind of stick out to allow them to roll. So they do fold up, which we want to disengage and bring up. Same thing here. Bring it up. And there we've got our Ultra Magnus legs all done. On the torso, flip this white piece down. I've seen people flip this piece out first and then rotate this. I like to do this rotation first and then flip this white piece out from underneath, like so. On these sections, there is a blue panel that is kind of tabbed in. It's this tab that I was talking about earlier that really is stressed in that location. I have a lot of trouble getting this piece out. I usually use a tool, but you can pop it out on either side. There we go. The very last thing, I guess, for this piece, and I realize now that I am essentially just transforming it separately, this panel. So I mentioned that this panel gets stressed, and I showed the stress mark here. The action that stresses this panel is really unfortunate. It is this rotation here. I want to grab it as close to the pivot point as possible. That is my attempt to prevent the stress mark from getting worse. Instead of grabbing it here and flexing the plastic, I'm grabbing it at the base and bringing it down. And I think that has helped. I've tried a couple things to resize the plastic, but it hasn't seemed to work yet. So same thing on this side. Again, just trying to prevent the plastic from stressing any more than it already has. With that done, we are going to come in on these panels, and we are going to untab these little sections here. They're tabbed onto each side of his pillars. We can fold in this panel on either side. It often already folds in for you. I kind of forget about that step because of how often it just folds in for you automatically. Get our nail in here. And what I like about this transformation is it is relatively simple, but it's intricate. It is, like, from a design perspective, very, very satisfying. We're going to rotate this and collapse things in, and it creates our pylon for his shoulders. And then we are going to open up this panel, collapsing things in to reveal his hands. Same thing here, open and collapse. And our Ultra Magnus body is basically done. And this is the neat thing for me is, like, this all happening means that we wouldn't get an Ultra Magnus like armor mode that we put onto a white Optimus Prime, but we could get a cab that fits these dimensions, transforms into the needed chest and head of Ultra Magnus, and could still transform into a white Optimus Prime that could integrate with this toy from a third-party company. I would be really, really interested in that. For the cab, I guess I'm going to just do it separately now. We're going to fold our smokestacks in, untab on either side the panels that make up the side windows, folding things down, untab the front window from the top. It's not super securely tabbed in, so once you get the side windows out, it'll unfold out, folding out those pieces. Then we can fold in these wheels, fold in these wheels, and things just kind of accordion out. This piece will come down and in like so, bringing our chest, and there we can see our Ultra Magnus chest. And this, at this step, we want to secure this back in place, and we would want to slide this down like so, folding this panel back and collapsing this down on top. There we go. It does click in really solidly. With that, these two blue pieces, they clip in. Then these blue shoulder pieces accordion in. We want to give them a good squeeze, like so. And then these red pieces tab in, and everything is nice and secure. And here is Ultra Magnus, and he does look pretty good. Now, let's give him his missile launchers. Put these on either side, as well as his two guns. And I mean, I'll say it is a G1 ass G1 Ultra Magnus. He doesn't have time for this, but he looks good. It is a big, massive soldier ready to kick Decepticon butt on the battlefield. And let's first take a look at articulation on this big boy. I guess very first thing, we do have a lovely head sculpt with some awesome light piping. I really dig that. I mean, the back of the head is a big transparent piece to get that light into those eyes, but it can wiggle. It's actually very, like, articulated. He can kind of look down since he's so big. He can, charge forward. It's essentially a swivel joint with a ball joint neck, so plenty of emotion there. We do have 360 on the arms with a really nice ratchet. We can go out, and the pylon does not get in the way of anything here, which is awesome. We can do a bicep swivel here. We've got slightly more, or maybe perfectly 90 degrees here at the elbow. We do have wrist articulation, which I appreciate, as well as finger articulation. We've got the index finger is double jointed and independent, and then the rest of them are double jointed together. On the waist, swivels just fine. If we get the arms out of the way, I really like, just in terms of design and sculpting, these hip skirts, because they want to move out of the way just fine. So despite Magnus being a big boy, he can do the splits no problem. He can also kick up in the air just fine. Backwards, just fine. And then he does have some buttery good joints there. Oh, I think did I totally forget to disengage? Yeah, there we go. Get the legs out. Then he's got, let's see, a knee joint here, thigh swivel, can, like I said, go out, and then some nice deep, not deep, that's the wheels popping off. Not popping off, but disengaging. There we go. Some decent ankle articulation, even if it's not the deepest. So yeah, Ultra Magnus for a Commander class figure, I think is decently poseable. Not extremely poseable, but can do all the Ultra Magnus things you want him to do. And he is a big boy. Not the biggest commander, but if we're comparing him to a leader, I mean, the previous Siege Ultra Magnus, there you can see the size difference. Along with the heft, it feels like a commander. It is a really satisfying toy to play with. He kind of dwarfs, a standard deluxe. I'd even say that if you are a big G1 scale fanatic, he might actually appear to be too big. If I remember correctly, Grimlock is actually supposed to be bigger than Ultra Magnus. Here we can see, Ultra Magnus's legs are spread right now, but Ultra Magnus is slightly bigger than Grimlock, which is really interesting. It's, again, for Studio Series where you think scale is important, it's surprising that they didn't downscale him a little bit and just make him a big leader. But I think to get the engineering they wanted to do in the transformation, they had to do the commander price point. It's something I'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, Ultra Magnus looks fantastic, and just as a toy is very playable. Now, the commander class figures that I've really enjoyed in the past, my top three are Skylynx, Jetfire, and Armada Prime. They all have some sort of gimmick. Ultra Magnus, I appreciate that he has play pattern here. The first thing is, if you lift up this crossbar in his chest pops open. I really like the spring-loaded gimmick. And we've got a nicely painted chest interior, as well as a matrix that is removable. So we can get that out of there. Which is interesting, because I like Ultra Magnus, him holding a matrix is a really funny part, and then just getting stomped is a really funny part of the 1986 movie. I appreciate that we have the nod to that there as well. I don't know that there's as much value to this part, but if we come on the back here and we open up the arm, you can see it is what looks to be a Combiner Wars port. Get that off there. The unfortunate part is this is a male piece, and here we have a random Combiner Wars figure. You can see that it's two males, so we can't attach things like this, as well as the size and depth of the Combiner Wars pieces don't match. You can't actually get things lined up and in there. This piece is too thin. This is a complaint on my end. It's really cool that we can blow Magnus apart. So if we want to, we can separate out these limbs. I do not know, with how big he is, why he couldn't be fully Combiner Wars compatible. It's a toy, and toys, I appreciate toys having play pattern. So we can do the same thing on the legs. We can get our Ultra Magnus all blown up into chunks. But again, these don't go with limbs, which is unfortunate. Ultra Magnus that randomly combines with the Combiner Wars pieces, that's just added play value. It's, even if it's not canonical to the movie or anything, just added play value is always nice. And that is one thing I want to talk about here, is value. I always like to give recommendations to toys in the context of what you're paying for them. Ultra Magnus here costs 90 bucks retail, but if we're looking right now on the market, the aftermarket, I think he's going for like 120 in some places. It seems like he's difficult to find at retail value. I paid 90 for mine. If I was giving a recommendation in a vacuum, I think I would not recommend this toy at retail price at 90 bucks. I would say that it's really cool. The backdrop's nice. You know, the everything it does is fun. But to me, it's a really solid and oversized leader figure, and it's a great leader figure. If this was $55, it would be the easiest recommendation in the world. But at 90 bucks, to me, there's just a certain level of majesty that's missing comparing this to something like Siege Jetfire or Earthrise Skylynx. Ultra Magnus is better than Kingdom's Rodimus. It's better than Legacy Motormaster, but I don't think he lives up to Jetfire, Skylynx, and Armada Prime's Commander class play pattern and value. That being said, on the aftermarket, people, the market, right, decides value, and people are wanting to pay, you know, $100 for this guy, $120 for this guy, $150 for this guy. So in that regard, I mean, it's not to my taste, but if you're able to find it at retail for 90 bucks, grab it, because it's a really solid toy and you're not going to be able to get it cheaper than that, unfortunately. So that is Transformers Generations Studio Series 8621 Ultra Magnus. A really fun toy, a toy that I'm happy to have in my collection. I'll say this, right now I'm holding on to this toy because I want to try and make a tutorial video on potentially some of these fixes for that stressing. That's really unfortunate, especially for what people are regarding as a $100 plus collector's item. To see the plastic stress like that is really unfortunate. But if Hasbro comes out with like a Delta Magnus colors or something similar, shattered glass colors, I'll probably end up doing a giveaway for this one as I pick up the other colorway, because I still like this Ultra Magnus with the armor. I feel like they occupy two different niches in my collection. I just don't want them to match in terms of color. So I like this Ultra Magnus with the inner robot, and then this Ultra Magnus, you know, if a third-party company comes out with an inner robot, I'll do a review of that. If Hasbro comes out with another color deco, I'll do a review of that, and then this will be a giveaway. We'll see. All right, that is it for today's video. I think this is coming out like Christmas Eve. So Merry Christmas, everybody. Hopefully you all have a wonderful Christmas day, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.